Today, we'll be covering a fascinating topic. But before we do that, how would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. Let's get into the video. By the time Thomas Edison died in 1931, he had over 1,000 U.S. patents. Thomas Edison is arguably the most famous inventor in American history. His inventions changed how we see, hear, and experience the world today. Edison was born on February 11, 1847, and he quickly showed that he had a curious mind. Despite the brilliant changes he would make in history, Edison did not do well in school. Instead, his mother homeschooled him, leaving him free to explore his interests. Starting at 4, Edison began observing and experimenting with the world around him. Not all of his experiments were successful. He tried having his friend, Michael Oates, drink a bubbly gaseous mixture, hoping he might fly like a balloon. But it did not end well for either boy. Still, Edison used any space he could find for his experiments, but he noticed that he had severe hearing loss at 12 years old. By his early teenage years, Edison was functionally deaf. Some people may have seen this as a disability and given up. Thomas Edison chose to seek opportunities despite his impediments. Later, he would credit many of his inventions to his inability to hear soft sounds because it forced him to experiment. He worked as a telegrapher for a while and began experimenting with that system with varied success. By 1869, Edison was determined to become a full-time inventor and make his fortune. He saw no point in inventing things that no one wanted to buy. Still, his first invention was a failure. He developed a way to record legislative votes much more quickly, but the congressional committee he presented it to was not interested. Edison refused to allow this failure to dishearten him and moved to New York. He quickly obtained a job with the New York Gold Indicator Company and refashioned his invention as a universal stock printer. Western Union was so impressed that they paid him $30,000, $25,000 over his asking price. Edison set up his first official inventing workshop with this new windfall, Menlo Park. He created some of his greatest inventions in Menlo Park, and he worked on his inventions throughout his life. He had a particular talent for improving the world around him, constantly looking for a more efficient way to sell ideas. Although Thomas Edison worked on over 1,000 inventions, here are 5 of his greatest that still influence the world today. Number 1. The light bulb. Most people have heard about Edison's light bulb. Even if you haven't heard, you probably could not imagine your life without light bulbs or electricity. By the time Thomas Edison turned his attention to the light bulb, he already had several successful inventions completed, and he enjoyed the wages of success. Even though many people credit Thomas Edison with creating the light bulb, he did not invent the first one. That honor belongs to Humphrey Davy, a chemist from Cornwall, England. None of the first light bulbs were very practical, so Edison focused on creating the first practical light bulb that could be sold commercially. His work was not easy, and Edison later talked about how he worked on 3,000 different theories to find the perfect solution. He eventually created a light bulb made from carbonized sewing thread and, later, from bamboo fibers in a tube without air, creating a vacuum. He had people searching all over the globe to find the best materials for his new and improved light bulbs. Inventing the light bulb was only part of the battle, for once he had the light bulb, he had to devise a way to regulate and divide electrical currents across multiple channels. Electricity already existed, but it was still in development. Edison eventually created lamp regulators, which helped keep the incandescent materials in his light bulbs from melting from the intensity of the electricity. He also figured out how to place lamps on parallel circuits, which meant he could now operate each lamp independently. Once he overcame those difficulties, he introduced his invention, the new and improved light bulb, to the world, where it was overwhelmingly accepted. While some businesses installed electricity, it was expensive because each building had to have its own dynamo. Edison decided that a central power station would significantly reduce the costs, and after a successful 2-year pilot in London, he brought his plans for a power station to New York City. He bought two buildings on Pearl Street, a busy and popular street with both homes and businesses, and built the necessary infrastructure to bring electricity to the buildings on the road. On his first day, he lit 400 light bulbs, but his power plant was soon powering thousands of light bulbs at the same time. His success made Thomas Edison a rich and famous man, able to design hundreds of other inventions during his life, and it forever changed the way that people see the world around them. Number 2. The kinetoscope. Again, Edison did not invent the first moving picture. That invention belongs to Edward Muybridge, who created simulated animal footage on his zoopraxiscope. Edison was inspired and first made a cylinder with images on it. One person could watch the pictures pass under a microscope in order, which gave the first hint of what movies would be like. He wasn't satisfied with showing his moving pictures to one-person audiences. Instead, Edison worked with William Dixon, a photographer and member of Edison's staff, to create a special camera called a kinetoscope. They invented this camera in 1892 and started showing their films publicly in 1894. His movies usually featured dancers, boxers, magicians, or other types of light entertainment. His films also captured many travelogues, so his filming teams would travel across the world to capture locations and cultures. Ever the businessman, Edison established the Motion Picture Patents Company, which made other inventors in the budding film industry work under him. He owned so many patents that he had control over the entire industry for a short time. Not everyone enjoyed working for him. Eventually, some of the filmmakers decided to go independent, so they left Edison and New York behind and went to California. As the demands of the film industry grew, Edison pulled out of it to pursue his other interests, leaving the way for other inventors to create new things. Still, Edison's interest in creating a moving picture that groups of people could enjoy helped create the first public moving pictures that would spark the industry that many of us could not imagine living without today. Number 3. The phonograph. Interestingly, Edison's work on the phonograph was not inspired by a love of music or other forms of auditory entertainment. Thomas Edison was mostly deaf, and he first invented the phonograph as a way to record the spoken human voice. He marketed it as a way to record books, for dictation use, or even to record the voice of a dying loved one. Thomas Edison did invent the first phonograph. The vibrations from the sounds would make indentations on the paper that was wound around a wooden tube. When the tube vibrated a certain way, the machine's diaphragm would convert the vibrations to sound. He quickly moved to wax and metal instead of paper. Like many first inventions, though, Edison's first phonograph was not easy to operate and wore out quickly. But he was still successful enough to pique the interest of other inventors, even if Edison himself lost interest for a time. Alexander Graham Bell was one of these rival inventors. He adapted the phonograph into the graphophone by replacing the wax tube with tin foil and the rigid needle with a floating stylus. He worked with Charles Sumner Tainter and offered to work with Edison on this project, but Edison refused to collaborate on his personal invention. For a short time, it didn't matter that Edison was not working with Bell because both inventors lost control of their manufacturing concerns when Jesse H. Lippincott procured them. He was the creator of the American Graphophone Company, which was later renamed the North American Phonograph Company. The company did not do well and went into bankruptcy in 1894, allowing Thomas Edison to buy back the rights to his phonograph. Now that he knew where the market for the phonograph was, Edison started the National Phonograph Company in 1896 to create phonographs for private entertainment. He made recordings of hymns, comedy, marches, and ballads, and his cylinders and discs were popular for a time. Business ceased on his discs in 1929 after competition with the radio caused business to become problematic. Still, Edison's dedication to creating a recording of the human voice radically changed how we enjoy the auditory world today. Number 4. Alkaline storage battery. Although we may think electric cars are a purely modern invention, when cars were first created in the late 1800s, there were both electric and gas-powered vehicles. Combustion engines were still dangerous, but the batteries did not hold a charge for long and were heavy. Thomas Edison was a big proponent of these new inventions and set about inventing a better battery. He experimented with batteries to create lightweight ones that could travel far distances between charges. Henry Ford partnered with Edison on this in 1915, and he nearly purchased 100,000 batteries before they discovered that Edison's batteries were not suitable for Ford's cars. Even though the electric car of 1915 was a failure for Edison's batteries, he still developed a reliable alkaline battery with various applications, including trains, mining lamps, and even submarines. During World War I, the U.S. Navy used lead-acid batteries in their submarines, which was not efficient nor always safe. Edison's alkaline battery was much safer, but also much more expensive. He convinced his friend Miller Reese Hutchinson to promote the alkaline battery with the Navy after a submarine sank in 1915, losing all people on board. Eventually, the Navy was convinced and replaced the lead-acid batteries with alkaline batteries. These batteries have since found a home in the world beyond submarines, influencing production and home life into the modern age. Number 5. The carbon telephone transmitter. Thomas Edison did not invent the telephone, but just like many of his other inventions, he took the ideas of others and made them more functional, easier to produce, and more accessible to the public. When Alexander Graham Bell got a patent for the telephone in 1876, his telephone transmitter used a permanent magnet to transmit sound waves over a constantly varying current, also called an undulatory current. It is a very weak electrical current, so Bell's telephone could not transmit sound very far. Edison decided to fix this problem by using a battery current. The sound waves traveled along the current by varying its resistance. He needed a unique material that was very sensitive to noise and movement, so he chose carbon, which he knew from previous experiments to be sensitive. Although his earlier experiments with carbon in the telegraph had been unsuccessful, Edison didn't ever give up. Instead, he used what he learned in his experiments to help him later, such as when he moved from the telegraph to the telephone. By 1877, Thomas Edison had redesigned the telephone transmitter by placing a small amount of carbon under the transmitter's diaphragm. When sound waves travel across the diaphragm and move it, the pressure on the carbon changes, sending currents through the phone line to the receiver. Edison's design allowed sound to travel farther, and until the 1980s, manufacturers used his basic design of placing granules of carbon from coal in phones. While he certainly didn't invent the telephone, he envisioned and created an improved version that completely changed how people connect with each other over large distances. Thanks to his hard work, many of us could not imagine life without a phone. To learn more about Thomas Edison, check out our book, Thomas Edison, A Captivating Guide to the Life of a Genius Inventor. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. Also, grab your free Mythology Bundle ebook while it's still available. All links are in the description. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.